I counted the seconds between your texts when I stopped responding. Every time I pulled away, I was watching, not to hurt you, but because I was terrified of missing the moment you'd realize I wasn't worth the effort. For 7 months, you thought I needed space. Really, I needed constant proof that losing me would actually matter to you. Women have 5 distinct ways we transform distance into emotional surveillance. I cycle through every single method. The moment loving you starts feeling more dangerous than losing you. By the end of this, you'll understand what I was really studying when I said I needed time to think. 5 ways women use distance to search for proof that love is strong enough to survive our worst fears about ourselves. Way number 1. I test the temperature of your attachment through micro-disappearances. The first way I study your love is so subtle it looks like normal relationship fluctuations. I don't vanish. I just become slightly less predictable, slightly less available, slightly less enthusiastic about plans we used to make easily. This isn't calculated cruelty. It's fear disguised as research. Tuesday, March 7th, 2:43 p.m. You text me about dinner plans, instead of my usual immediate response. I wait 51 minutes, not because I'm busy, because I need to see if my delayed availability creates any shift in your energy, any sign that my presence in your life isn't something you assume. March 10th, 3 days later, 8:15 p.m. During our regular phone call, I let it ring 6 times instead of picking up immediately. I'm listening to your voicemail after I miss the call, analyzing whether there's disappointment in your voice, whether my unavailability registers as concerning or relieving. 2 weeks pass. March 24th, 11:22 a.m. When you suggest weekend plans, I say, "I'll see how I feel," instead of the automatic yes you've come to expect. I watch your face carefully for micro-expressions. Does my uncertainty make you try harder, or does it make you pull back too? My therapist later told me there's a name for this: proximity regulation testing. But in the moment, it just felt like survival. Like trying to understand if you needed me before I let myself need you completely. I'm not trying to hurt you with these small experiments. I'm trying to map the geography of your feelings so I know where the safe places are. The micro-disappearances aren't rejection. They're reconnaissance missions into whether your love is as fragile as mine feels. My jaw clenches for hours after each test because I'm simultaneously terrified you'll fail them and terrified you'll pass them. And I'll have to face how much I want this to work. But when subtle testing doesn't give me enough data, I escalate the investigation. Way number 2. I amplify real emotions to see how much emotional labor you'll invest in calming storms you didn't create. When micro-testing doesn't satisfy my need for proof, I use genuine feelings as a way to measure your capacity for loving me when it requires effort. I don't manufacture problems. I take real emotions and let them expand to fill all the space between us until you have to choose whether to wade in or watch from the shore. March 27th, 9:37 p.m. I call you crying about feeling like I don't fit anywhere, including with you. The loneliness is real, but I'm letting it consume me completely instead of managing it. I need to see if my emotional chaos moves you to immediate action, if my pain can shift your evening plans, your sleep schedule, your sense of priority. April 2nd, 6 days later, 4:52 p.m. Right before we're supposed to meet your friends, I have what looks like a complete breakdown about not belonging in your social world. The anxiety exists, but I'm feeding it instead of fighting it. I'm testing whether you'll choose comforting me over the social obligation, whether my emotional state takes precedence when the two are in direct conflict. 3 weeks pass, April 23rd, 11:48 a.m. When you're trying to sleep, I start a conversation about feeling like I always love people more than they love me back. The fear is authentic, but I'm having this conversation now because I need to know if you'll sacrifice rest to prove me wrong. I didn't know I was doing emotional labor testing until my therapist explained it months later. In the moment, it felt like showing you the most difficult parts of myself to see if you'd stay or start looking for the exit. I'm not manipulating you with fake emotions. I'm using real feelings as a laboratory for understanding whether you'll love me through the inconvenient parts of who I am. The vulnerability isn't performed. It's strategically revealed. I choose the timing based on what I need to learn about your stamina for caring about someone complicated. My stomach drops every time I watch you decide whether to step into my emotional weather or suggest I handle it alone, because both responses terrify me for different reasons. When emotional testing still leaves me uncertain, something happens that surprises even me. Way number 3. I create competing loyalties to see if you'll choose me when choosing me disappoints other people. This is where I stop pretending the tests are accidental and start engineering situations that force you to prove I'm worth defending. But then something happened that changed everything about how I saw what I was doing. April 25th, 6:14 p.m., your college friend Emma is visiting from Portland, and I schedule my own crisis exactly during your dinner plans with her. I call 37 minutes before you're supposed to meet, telling you I'm spiraling about work and need you immediately. When you suggest bringing me to dinner with Emma, I say I can't be around people. I watch you choose between disappointing her or abandoning me. May 1st, 2:25 p.m. During your family barbecue, I text that I'm having one of those days where I feel completely alone in the world. When you offer to pick me up and bring me to your family gathering, I say I need you to just be with me, just us. I'm measuring whether your loyalty to me can override your obligations to them. May 8th, 10:43 p.m. The night you're supposed to go out with work colleagues, I suddenly need to have an urgent conversation about whether we're really compatible long-term. I create an emotional emergency that demands your full attention during the exact hours you plan to socialize without me. But here's what I didn't expect. The night I made you choose between me and your work friends, I watched your face as you canceled on them, and I realized I was destroying something beautiful about you. Your natural generosity with other people. That's when I understood I wasn't testing your love. I was testing your willingness to become smaller for me. What psychologists call priority testing through competing demands felt in that moment like watching myself become the kind of person I'd always been afraid of becoming. I wasn't trying to isolate you from everyone else. I was trying to understand whether you'd choose my emotional security over social harmony when forced to pick sides. My hands shake for 23 minutes after each test, because I'm simultaneously afraid you'll fail and afraid you'll pass, and I'll have to live with what I made you give up for me. If you're watching this because you recognize these impossible choices, subscribe now. What I reveal next shows how the testing becomes something I barely recognize as love. But when choosing me over other people still doesn't feel like enough proof. Way number 4. I withhold affection and intimacy to create scarcity around what I know you treasure most about us. This is where I stop pretending the distance is protective and start using it deliberately as a weapon I don't want to be holding. The power comes from watching you try to earn back what I used to give as naturally as breathing. May 12th, 7:29 p.m. When you reach for my hand during our movie night, I pull away and say I'm not feeling physically connected lately. This isn't about genuine discomfort. It's about creating artificial scarcity around touch, so I can study how the absence changes your behavior toward me. May 18th, 8:46 p.m. After you've been especially attentive all day. When you tell me you love me while we're cooking dinner, I respond with thank you instead of I love you too. I'm withholding the words I know you need to hear, so I can observe how their absence affects your confidence in us. May 24th, 11:15 p.m. When you're hoping for intimacy after a beautiful evening together, I say I'm too tired, even though I'm not. I'm creating barriers to the closeness you're seeking because I need to see how you handle being denied something you want from me. But here's what shocked me. The night I withheld I love you, I lay awake for 4 hours, realizing I was punishing myself more than you. Every time I pulled back emotionally, I felt the loss more acutely than you seemed to. I didn't know I was doing intermittent reinforcement testing. I just knew that watching you work harder to reconnect with me felt like proof that I mattered, even though it was killing the spontaneous affection between us that I actually treasured. I'm not withholding love because I don't feel it. I'm withholding the expression of love to see how much effort you'll invest in trying to restore what we used to have naturally. The withdrawal isn't strategic anymore. It's compulsive. I can't stop studying your responses, even though the experiment is destroying the very thing I'm trying to preserve. I hold my breath every time I pull back emotionally, waiting to see if you'll fight for us or start protecting yourself from me the way I've been protecting myself from you. When emotional withholding becomes a habit I can't break, I make one final, desperate choice. Way number 5. I disappear completely to see if you'll search for me in the silence, or if you'll discover you're relieved I'm gone. This is the most obvious power play, but also the most desperate. I'm not testing your commitment anymore. I'm testing whether I exist in your emotional world when I'm not actively maintaining my place in it. May 28th, 6:33 p.m. After 3 weeks of smaller experiments that left me more confused than reassured, I stop responding to your texts entirely. Not delayed responses, complete silence. When you call, I let it go to voicemail. When you suggest getting together, I don't acknowledge the invitation exists. June 2nd, 2:41 p.m. When you show up at my apartment because I haven't responded in 5 days, I tell you through the door that I need space to figure out what I really want. This isn't entirely untrue. I am confused about everything, but I'm mostly testing whether my absence creates enough panic in you to override my explicit request for distance. June 8th, 9:18 a.m. After 11 days of silence, I watch from my bedroom window as you leave flowers and a handwritten letter on my doorstep. I don't collect them for 7 hours, but I photograph them immediately. I'm documenting evidence that my disappearance moves you to gestures you never made when I was available. What I didn't expect, by day 14 of the silence, I realized I had no idea how to come back. I'd become so focused on measuring your response to my absence that I'd forgotten how to just exist with you normally. My therapist called this abandonment testing through complete withdrawal. I called it the loneliest 2 weeks of my life. Even though I was the one who created the loneliness, the complete silence isn't punishment. It's the ultimate experiment in whether you need me enough to endure, not knowing where I am emotionally, or if you'll use the space to discover you're better off without someone who keeps disappearing. I'm not trying to end our relationship. I'm trying to discover whether you'll fight for it when fighting means tolerating uncertainty, discomfort, and the possibility that I might actually be too damaged to love properly. I cry for 47 minutes every night during the silence, because disappearing from your life feels like disappearing from my own. But I can't come back until I know whether you want me back badly enough to prove it. These 5 ways reveal what I was really afraid of discovering. These 5 ways of using distance as power weren't about controlling you. They were about trying to control how much it would hurt when you inevitably realized I wasn't worth the effort. Every test, every withdrawal, every manufactured crisis was my way of trying to predict and prepare for rejection before it could blindside me. I wasn't pulling away because I didn't love you. I was pulling away because I loved you so much that needing you felt like handing you a weapon I was sure you'd eventually use. Here's what I wish I could have told you then. When you've learned that love is something you lose, you start testing whether this love is strong enough to survive your worst fears about your own worthiness. The power I was seeking wasn't power over you. It was power over the uncertainty that was slowly poisoning my ability to receive the love you were actually offering. Some women use distance not because we want space, but because we want proof that the space we create will be unbearable for you too. Do I regret turning our love into a laboratory? Every single day. Do I understand why I needed evidence instead of trust? I'm still learning to believe love doesn't have to be earned through survival tests. Am I sorry for making you prove your care in ways that probably felt impossible to decode? That's the question that keeps me awake at 3 a.m. If you're currently watching someone use distance to test your commitment, maybe they're not rejecting your love. Maybe they're trying to figure out if your love is strong enough to survive their certainty that they'll ruin it eventually. And maybe the most powerful thing you can do is refuse to participate in tests that hurt you both while still showing them that love doesn't have to be earned through suffering. But how do you prove love is safe without enabling the testing? How do you show someone they don't need to earn what you're already giving freely? These questions don't have clean answers. Sometimes loving someone means protecting yourself from their fear, while they learn to trust that protection isn't rejection. If you want to understand more about why women choose chaos over peace in love, watch my video, "She Left the One Who Loved Her for the One Who Broke Her." That video will show you why some of us trust struggle more than stability, and how trauma teaches us that love that comes too easily can't possibly be real.